Hello friends, welcome to Unreal Blueprints video tutorials series. In the previous video we understood random integer and random integer in range functions. In this video I would like to discuss random float and random float in range functions. Random float returns a float value between 0.0 and 0.99999. It returns value between 0.0 and 0.99999. It never returns value 1, guys. Let me prove that. I right click here and say random float. I select it. Then I say here print string, connect the execution pins, connect the data pins. Now it is going to continuously generate a random float between 0.0 and 0.99999. Compile, save, come to level 1 and play. You see it is continuously generating random numbers. I'll stop and you can clearly observe it has generated, you can see 0.7, 0.1, 0.7, right? We have 0.8, 0.9, we have, right? 0.0 we have, you can see that you don't find anywhere 1.0 generated. Anywhere you see 1.0 generated, right? So that is what the random float returns, guys. It returns a value between 0.0 and 0.99999. It never returns value 1. We have another node or a function random float in range. It returns a float value in a specified range. For example, if I give minimum value 1, maximum value 10, it returns value between 1.0 and 9.99999. It never returns the maximum value 10. It always returns less than max, guys. Okay, random float in range. Let's see. Instead of random float, I'm going to use random float in range. Random float in range, and then I connect the pin over here. Minimum value I give 1. Maximum value I give 10. What it generates? It generates random number between 1.0 and 9.99999. It never generates max value 10, guys. Compile, save, come to level 1 and play. You can see it is generating random numbers now. You can see it has generated 1.7, it has generated 9.2, right? 9.5, you can see that it has generated random number 1.9. You can see here it never generates the number 10, never generates the 10.0. So how do we generate a random number between 1.0 and 10.0? Okay, in that case we need to modify this blueprint. We take help of the minimum node. So min node, here I give the return value and I connect this pin over here. Max value, instead of 10 we give 11. So when we give the max value 11, random float in range, what it returns? It returns value between 1.0 and 10.9999999. Now what happens in this case? We are using the min node and here b value I give 10. Okay, it always returns number which is less than 10.0, less than or equal to 10.0. If it is 1, it returns as it is. If random float in range is returning 5, it returns 5. If it is 10.0, it returns 10.0. If it is more than 10.0, 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, then it always returns 10 only. Okay, if I say compile, save, come to level 1 and play, you can see it is generating random numbers. Let me stop. And now you can see here it has generated 9.3, it has generated 1.4. You can also see it has generated 10.0. We are able to generate the random number between 1.0 and 10.0 now, guys. You can see we have 10.0 here, right? So that is how you need to modify the blueprint. Okay, there are some situations where you need to take help of other nodes to generate the required range, guys. Okay, now let's understand how do we use a random float in range in games. Okay, real-time example we'll see. Okay, let's come to content browser. You can use random float in range wherever you see a float value in a node which you want to randomize, guys. Very simple. I right click here and say new folder. I call this as effects. I right click and say Niagara system, new system from selected emitter. Next, I select here hanging particles, add, finish. I call this as NS underscore rainfall effect. I call this as ns underscore rainfall effect. I hit enter. I double click to open it. Here we have the hanging particulates. You can see that, right? Now what I do here I'm going to add gravity force module. Now the particles start falling down. I go to initialize particle. Here sprite size mode, I say non-uniform. You can see non-uniform particles are falling down. In the x-axis, let me say 3, and in the y-axis, let me say 30 or 40. And then I select here sprite renderer module, and I say alignment velocity aligned. So now you can clearly see the rainfall is happening, right? Now in this, I want to randomize spawn rate. Spawn rate is a float value. You can see its type is set to float. We can randomize any float value now, right? I want to randomize the spawn rate. So for that, first we need to create a variable. So user expose variable, I click on the plus sign, make new. Here I am going to search for float. I am going to search for float. And we give here the variable name spawn spawn rate, same as the module name, and then we drag this and assign here. Okay, we have exposed this variable spawn rate so that we can randomize the spawn rate anywhere. Let's save this one and let me go to level 1. Here I'm going to create one blueprint class. I call the of type actor. I call this as bp underscore rainfall controller. I open it. You can see rainfall controller is open now. In this I am going to add Niagara particle system component, right? I am going to rename this to ns underscore rainfall, and then here I am going to select the asset, that is Niagara rainfall effect. Okay, now we have this rainfall effect. We can get that here ns rainfall, we got the reference, and in Niagara system we have set nodes. Okay, set float parameter, so that we can set any float value to any float type parameter. Here we give the parameter name, that is spawn rate, and here this is going to be the value. Let's say if I say 100, then spawn rate is set to 100. So 100 particles generated per second. If I say compile save, come to level 1, I drag and drop this BP rainfall and I place it above and click on the play button. You should see the rainfall is happening. You can see that the rainfall is happening, right? 100 particles or raindrops are generating per second, guys. Okay, now let me go back to our BP rainfall. I'm going to randomize this one. So I will say here random float in range. Here I give the minimum value, let's say 500, or let's say 100 will take 100 minimum. Maximum I give 2000. Okay, compile and save. Now when I click on the play button, you see we have so many raindrops falling, right? Heavy rainfall. Stop and play. Now that is fine. Stop and play. Now we have less number of raindrops, you can see that, right? So we can randomize any float value using random float in range, guys. I hope you guys have clearly understood. For this video tutorial, this much is enough, guys. If you like this video, hit the like button and share with your friends so that everyone will get benefited. In the upcoming video tutorials, we discuss more about Unreal blueprints. For more benefits and be up to date, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Keep learning, keep designing, keep sharing. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial.